What's going on, everybody? Today we're going to be talking about Limbo, his kit overall, and some builds that I personally like to rock with Limbo. Let's go ahead and start off by talking about his passive. Whenever you roll with Limbo, you won't actually do a roll animation. Instead, you will straight up slide into a different dimension, which is known as the Rift Plane. This is the dimension that Limbo constantly has access to, and thanks to his passive, all you have to do to actually access the Rift Plane is roll. And every time you slide into the Rift, you will leave behind a portal that lasts for 5 seconds, which allows your allies to also enter this different dimension. While you and your allies are in this dimension, you are immune to any damage source that is not on the same material plane as you. So any normal enemy that's not actually in the Rift Plane with you can't do damage to you. Now, of course, you can't do damage back in return, but there are still ways you can kill enemies inside the Rift, which we'll get into later. Next up, we're going to be talking about the first ability, Banish, and why we replaced it. This ability is really, and I mean really, not that good considering what you can do with Limbo, so I went ahead and replaced this ability. As I said earlier in the video, I will be talking about multiple different builds that I like to rock with Limbo, and each of them involve replacing the first ability, Banish, with a helmet ability. And those abilities are Breach, Surge, Norris, and Eclipse. Of course, you can't have multiple helmet abilities on at the same time, so I have a config reserved for each ability. Breach Surge is an amazing ability. It blinds enemies directly in sight, and it releases sparks that act as homing projectiles that seek enemies' heads, dealing radiation damage and a 20% status chance with a crit multiplier of 1.5 times. Whenever you kill blind enemies, you guaranteed make a spark, and on top of that, the damage multiplier and the status chance that you get with this ability scale with ability strength, and the sparks can get a multiplicative damage buff with the mod Vigorous swap and with Eclipse. This ability is amazing for ad clear. Right before you kill a group of enemies, you pop this ability, blind a few of them, and the moment you kill that group of enemies, sparks will start flying around, dealing a bunch of damage in return. Second ability I like to rock on Limbo is Norris. Norris is definitely one of the best, if not the best, helmet ability in the game, and that's because whenever you use this ability, you provide yourself with a buff that does 3 separate effects. It gives you an energy multiplier for efficient energy recovery, making every energy orb you pick up give you more energy. It adds viral damage to all your weapons, and while this ability is active, taking damage causes an explosion that staggers enemies and does viral damage to them, while also applying 1 stack of viral to enemies. This ability is just great for energy recovery and a damage buff to your weapons. And the last ability I like to rock with Limbo is actually Eclipse. This ability provides a buff depending on the light source you're standing in. If you're standing in the light, you get a buff called Solar Eclipse, which gives you a multiplicative weapon damage bonus. And if you're standing in the dark, you get a buff called Lunar Eclipse, which reduces enemy accuracy against you. I didn't really know which one to include for this video, considering I like to use all of these abilities, so I figured why not put them all in this video. Out of these 3 abilities, what would you actually put on your Limbo build? Feel free to let me know in the comments below. His second ability is called Stasis, and this is honestly a really good ability. Using this ability freezes all enemies in the Rift. This ability does scale with ability duration, so depending on the amount of duration you have will depend on how long the enemies are frozen for. But any enemy affected by this ability in the Rift Plane quite literally is just frozen, standing still without being able to do anything, which makes this ability really good for crowd control, especially when you pair it with his 4th ability. It makes clearing out enemies that are in the Rift Plane infinitely easier, and it's just a great way to make sure that you're always in control. His 3rd ability is known as Rift Surge, and out of all of Limbo's abilities, I can definitely say I use this ability the least, but nonetheless it is still good. This ability produces a surge of Rift energy that forces enemies into the Rift Plane, as well as extending the Banish duration. This ability has really good synergy with his 2nd and 4th ability, as the whole purpose of this ability is to make sure that you're keeping enemies in the Rift Plane. On to his last ability, which is definitely his most iconic ability, Cataclysm. This ability creates a dimensional bubble that separates the material and the Rift Plane, giving Limbo control of the area inside the bubble. This ability prevents any outside damage while you're inside the bubble, and while you're inside the bubble, you will also be in the Rift Plane, which of course gives Limbo even more control of the battlefield. You definitely want to go for range on this ability, as the more range you have, the bigger of an area you can control, and using Cataclysm and his 2nd ability Stasis is just a hand-in-hand combo, let me tell you. Any enemy inside or any enemy that walks inside is instantly frozen and can't move. So with the right weapons that you guaranteed know can get the job done, Limbo can be quite a threat. Let's go ahead and talk about weapons. Anytime I play Limbo, I find myself using the same 3 weapons because I just absolutely love this combo of weapons. It's honestly one of my favorite in in the game, and that is the Tenet Archiplasmor, the Latum Incarnon, and an Exodia Contagion ZOUL. Lastly, we're going to be talking about mods and arcanes that I like to rock on Limbo. As far as the arcanes, I'm always rocking Arcane Energize and Molt Augmented, no matter which helmet ability I'm going with. And as far as the mods go, I always rock my 3 Umbral mods, just because the boost the Umbral mods give is honestly really good, and it's just a really good way to guarantee that you stay alive. Of course, I got Blind Rage for extra ability strength. I like to rock Rolling Guard so I can guaranteed get rid of any status effects applied to me. And those are the mods that I would personally recommend. The rest of the mods are really up to you. It really does depend on what kind of build you're going for, but these are the mods that I like to rock for all these builds. And yeah guys, that's pretty much gonna be it for this video. I know I went over quite a few different ways that I like to play Limbo, but to be honest, I just find myself swapping between these configs, and I didn't really want to exclude one of these builds considering that I use them all. Before this video ends, real quick, just wanted to say thank you guys so much for all the support on the channel. You guys have been going absolutely crazy with all the support. So if you're new here or haven't already, hit that like button and subscribe for more. And yeah guys, that's pretty much gonna be it from me. With that being said, thanks for watching.